In this video, I'm going to share my experience of Wells Fargo interview and I will share the interview question and answers. So let's get started. So there were total three rounds, two technical and one techno-managerial round. This was for the Hyderabad location and the role was senior software engineer. So let's get started. The first they asked me like tell me about yourself, like how much experience you have, which company you are currently working in, what is the tech stack. So I gave the answer. So this one that I am not going to cover in this because that varies from person to person. And coming to me, I have around 8 years of experience in the IT industry. So the question which they asked me, like tell me a scenario, where will you use the JPA and where will you use the native query. So simply they asked me like whose performance will be better, JPA or the native query. Which are the situations where will you use the JPA, where will you use the native query. So the next question they asked me, what is composite key and how will you handle that in the JPA. So I told them like composite key when we have a table and there is no single key which can be used as a primary key, then we combine two or three keys and that combination of keys which will be making as a primary key will be called a composite key. And how we can handle in the JPIs, like if there is a single primary key, we used to use the @ID, but now there is a group of keys which are combining and making it as a composite key or primary key. So there we will create another class and we will use embeddable and @embedded ID. So with this, we can handle this situation. This was my response to them. And the next question they asked me, what if you are using the JPA for some fetch operation and query performance is too slow? What will you do? So we know the JPA the JPA gives the auto-generated query, and the question was like suppose a JPA gives its own auto-generated query, but the query performance is too slow. What will you do in that situation? So I answered them like we can use the JPQL, or if needed we can use the stored procedures, or we can go for the native query based upon the situation. And yeah, this was my response to them. And then they asked me write a class or a set of class based upon your thing like library management or stock market or whatever you like, but make sure those classes should follow the solid principle. And then next question they asked me, how are you handling the logging in your application? So I told them like we are using log4j, but his question was like suppose there are 10 microservices and everywhere you have to write logger.info. I mean 10 microservices will have so many classes, so many methods. So everywhere you will be writing the logger.info, logger.info, logger.debug. So how can you handle or avoid this boilerplate code? So I told them like we will create one different application, I mean different project, and we can use the AOP and we will create some annotation, and then we will add this project as a dependency in all the microservices, and wherever needed, like wherever we need the logging, so we will use the annotation whatever we have created there. So with this we can avoid the boilerplate code of the loggers. Then there were three or four programming questions. I forgot, like one was on the two pointer approach, few were on the Java 8, and one was like they gave me a string and they asked me to find out the fourth non-repeated character by using Java streams. Then they asked me which deployment strategy are you guys using. I told them like we are using the blue-green deployment strategy. Then they said, why are you using this strategy? There might be some reason. Why are you not using the canary or any other deployment strategy? Then they asked me what all design patterns have you worked on. So I told them like I have worked on CQRS, circuit breaker, and then Eureka, then talking to another microservices REST template. So this is what I told them, but then they said me, okay, Saga design pattern. So I told them, yeah, I know. Then they said, okay, where will you use the choreography and where will you use the orchestration Saga design patterns? So I gave some answers, but they were not satisfied with that. Then I told them like I have not worked on that, but I this is what I know. So they said, okay, let's move further. Then they asked me, suppose you are working on a project and that project is for migrating the monolithic application to the microservices. Then he said, what will be your approach? Will you migrate the whole project in a single go? Will you migrate in a small chunks? And which design patterns will you use here? So I told them like we will migrate it into a small chunks. We will migrate one microservice, one part of that monolith, then second, and then third, and we can use a triangular design pattern here. So this is what I told them. And then they said me, how will you improve the performance of your application? So I told them we can use the cache. We will use, instead of a streams, we will use the parallel streams. And if we are talking to another microservices, we can use the web client, which is asynchronous in nature. And we can use the Kafka, and then we can optimize the queries as well. If we are talking to database, like we can use the indexes or shredding or partitioning. So these were my response. And then they said me, then the next question was like, he asked me, what are you using when you're talking to another microservice? I said them, we are using REST template. Then he said, why are you using REST template? Why not Fin client? So indirectly, he was trying to ask me, like, tell me a situation where will you use the REST template, where will you use the Fin client and web client. Then he said me, suppose you are a consumer in a Kafka, and after pulling the data from a topic or a message from a topic, and you are performing some activity and storing that data in the database. But while performing that activity, you came to know the data or the message which you have read from the Kafka is corrupted. So what will you do? I said it depends. If that message is not important, and then we can leave that message. If it is important, then we can use the dead letter queue. We can put it in some, we can create our own topic dead letter queue, and we can place it there. And then the producer will become the consumer. They will read the message from that dead letter queue. They will rectify that message and they will send me back. And then again, the process will start. Then another question on Kafka was like, if a producer sends a message in a very fast pace and the consumer is too slow and lag is getting created, what will you do at this time? So I told them like, this is a problem of a Kafka back pressure, and it can happen at the producer level. The problem can be at the producer level, at the consumer level, or topic level. In the topic, we can create the different partitions and all, and then in the producer we can use the message.linger, like, okay, after 10 seconds or 20 seconds the new batch of messages should go to topic, and we can create it in the batch. Like once the batch size reaches to 16 KB or 24 KB, then only the message should go. And then he asked me like, where are you authorizing your application? Like I told them, we are using Spring Cloud Gateway, so we are authorizing our application the JWT tokens. I mean, where are you authorizing your JW token? So I told them we are authorizing it at the Spring Cloud Gateway level. Then he asked me, suppose, like he said me like, you are already using the JWT token. So like suppose you are working on some e-commerce application, or it's a HDFC bank or any application, and user comes on that, and he said me, suppose your JWT token validity is of 1 minute. So the customer or the user is still on the same page, and validity is going to get expired. So what will you do? Will you let customer go and logged off, or what will you do? So I said logging off the customer will not be a good choice. So I said them, we can have some some pop up there, and we can ask, tell customer that you are about to log off, click on continue to make sure you are on this page or something. Then he said, how will you handle this? At that time I didn't know like how we can handle it. And then the next question was, how are you using alerting in your application? So I said we are using the Dynatrace. And then he asked me what all things you are doing in the Dynatrace and all those things. So I said we are using Dynatrace for checking how many are passed, how many are failed, requests are passed, requests are failed, and all those things. Then he asked me about the stages, pipeline stages, like in the Jenkins, how many stages are there? And then he asked me like, apart from Jenkins, which all CD tools do you know about? So I told him like, I know about Harness or Spinnaker or Urban Code, IBM's Urban Code. So these were the tools, CD tools I knew, and I told him. And then the next question he asked me, tell me a situation where will you use the relational database and where will you use the non-relational database. So I explained him through the cap theorem, like wherever we want the availability to be 100%, then we can go for the relational database, and where we want the consistency to be 100%, then we should go for the relational database like banking sectors and all. So at a particular time, out of this gap theorem, the database can satisfy any two. So in case of a relational database, it satisfies consistency and partitioning, and in case of a non-relational, it satisfies the availability and partitioning. So this is what I explained. So yeah, these were the questions which were asked, and as far as I remember, these were the questions which were asked, and maybe few of the questions I'm missing.